Like a plane? Do you think that's what happened when you go to the bathroom in a plane?
Yes.
Do you think it just gets jettisoned into the sky?
That's not what happens.
That only happens on Dave Matthews Band's tour bus. Satellite.
Welcome everyone to S1E1, the show where each week we watch a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and ignoring anything we know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if that's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're talking about American Auto. American Auto went one season with 10 episodes on NBC so far. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Pilot, originally airing December 13th, 2021. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me as always, the guys, Nick, Ferg, Gordo, and Joe. What's going on, guys?
Yo.
Yellow.
They had heads, they just weren't connected to their bodies.
All right, so American Auto. Joe, this was your pick. Any reason why we're doing it?
Yeah, when this show had like a very interesting kind of fanfare-less premiere, like in December, all of a sudden on Peacock, there was just 2 episodes of it with nobody mentioning it. We were just like scrolling through. It was like, wait, this looks like it could be interesting. And then it premiered, in earnest like a month or 2 later. And I thought it was kind of an odd thing, but we watched it and really liked it. And
I
go ahead.
remember me and you talking about it and being like, I'm like, this show's coming out. We should do it. It's like, oh, it's already out. Never mind.
Yeah, because they didn't like announce any of it, which is a really weird thing to do now. I don't know, because now we live in a world with the streaming stuff. It's such a hard thing where you don't have to like give the same sort of big sell you used to always give. But it's one of those shows that when I saw just the preview, I was like, oh, this seems like it will be Thursday night on NBC level of show, like when we used to watch The Office and Parks and Rec and everything in real time. So
yeah, and
seems like a good one for us to cover.
Mentioning The Office, I mean, it's important to note that this show is created by Justin Spitzer, who worked on The Office as a producer and then was the creator of Superstore. So he has like a good lineage, and actually Superstore is a show that we did not too long ago. If you want to go back in the archives and listen to that.
He did Rutherford Falls too, right?
Yes.
I don't think so. Did he?
No,
wait,
I don't think he did
Or were
that.
they just similar?
I think they're just similar.
Yeah, someone else did
My
Rutherford. I
bad.
can't remember off the top. Yeah, but he
Mose from The Office did Rutherford Falls.
yes, yeah.
Michael Schur.
But yeah, so Justin Spitzer is like off of that lineage too. So I think from Superstore to this, I think it was one of those, maybe they didn't need to overhype it because they knew that there was like this built-in interest that would probably follow the show. But who knows?
This does feel a lot like Superstore as well. It feels
for sure,
very
similar
close.
100%.
And just to go back, before the taping of this episode for us, Joe, you said you've already watched it. How about the rest of you guys? I had kind of waited for us to do this episode before I watched it.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, Sam, I didn't hear about it until Joe had mentioned it, and I've never seen it.
Yeah, all I saw was the ads. I planned on watching it even before we covered it, but I waited because we were going to cover it on the show. So just the first episode I watched.
All right, well, and before we get into it, just want to remind everyone, go to S1E1pod.com if you want to follow all our social medias or find other places where you can listen to us. But you can listen to us on all platforms. But again, S1E1pod.com. Follow our socials, rate, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. But all right, let's get right into it. The cold open. We kind of start off with this board meeting, and that's kind of where we first meet Sadie, who's introducing everyone to the new CEO of Payne Motors. And Payne Motors is the company that everyone on the show works for. Just a fictitious auto company, as if it was like a Buick or Ford or anything like that.
I think we're supposed to believe it is basically a surrogate for Ford, right? Because when they do a lot in this episode, they talk about the founding fathers of the company. And I think that they're very much drawing a line to Henry Ford.
Aren't they also based in Detroit?
They're Detroit, yeah.
Isn't that like most auto stuff other than like the super foreign cars? Isn't that what like Ford's known for?
Yeah, most
car companies were in Detroit. Yeah, Motor
based
City.
Yeah,
Ford car companies.
And,
as opposed to Fjord car companies, which are actually
Fjord?
boats. Uh-huh.
the new
Fjord
CEO.
Icicle.
We've been down this road before, right? This was what? Norseman?
Yes.
So go back if you want to listen to that episode as well. So the CEO that's announced is Catherine Hastings, but that's played by Ana Gasteyer, who I think most notably SNL. I mean, she's been in a good handful of stuff, but I think SNL would always be the number one that you'd remember her from.
She's part of that era of SNL people who, not just the reruns we were watching a lot as a kid on like Comedy Central, but like when we would have been the age where we first started watching SNL sort of live in earnest, she was like a big part of that cast. So I have a big soft spot for her from that.
Trying to think of like things you would most know her from. She was one of she was part of the Sweaty Balls skit, right? I believe she was one of those. She's
part of the NPR public radio girls, and she's does a ton of stuff in that. She was on it for a while. I want to say 4 or 5 seasons.
And then, I never looked her up, but Sadie looked familiar. It's Harriet Dyer, but I don't know.
I looked her up too. She's also Australian, and I say it all the time. Australians do the best American accents. I don't know how. I don't know why it lends itself, because Americans do terrible Australian accents, but Australian people seem to be great at doing American ones.
Also, Australians drop their R's too and don't get nearly as much shit for it.
I never thought of that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
True.
I noticed that on that show Below Deck, where half of them are Australian on the boat crew, and they're all like, "Oh, what's that car?" Like,
well, I don't know enough about like all Australian dialects, but maybe, for us being from Boston, where it's such a small regional thing with that, dropping the R for the accent, so we stand out amongst the rest of the country, where there it's just commonplace.
Yeah,
also, true. Australia is such a humongous place. You know what I mean? And the cities are so far apart depending on what coast you're on. So it might even just be an accent thing that's part of a specific part of Australia.
True too. Speaking of impressions, Jay, how's your Bobcat Goldthwait impression coming along?
I'm waiting until we find a show. Like, if we get another show that he's on, then like I'll have to prepare more, but it's definitely on the back burner at the moment.
You want to give us a preview?
Give this episode
no, I do not.
100 downloads, and Jay will do it in the next episode.
We should
do it on the
100.
Instagram.
100 should be easy.
I'm trying to think of other shows he was on. I had tons of movies. Like, we could just do his story arc from like Police Academy 2 through 4, and I would be a very happy person.
Yeah, maybe if we ever get a Patreon going, we'll just do a Bobcat week.
At this point, we have more Patreon episodes in the hole than we do episodes.
Yeah,
we say that all the time.
Yeah, we keep adding things to the list of things we want to do if we have the time.
Well, I figure if we just keep throwing out Patreon ideas, eventually either someone's A, gonna steal that idea and make a podcast and that'll be interesting to listen to, or B, be like, hey, I'll give you money if you do that. So, you just got to keep throwing it at the wall like spaghetti.
Yeah, let us know.
Steal our ideas, we'll slit your throats.
or that.
We'll send a Bobcat after you.
So to get back to the show, how do you feel about the way the show is shot in general? It's not standard sitcom. Like, the old, like, 3-camera sitcom situation. It's more shot cinematically, which is kind of the new norm now for a lot of these shows.
I call that new age sitcom.
Yeah, it feels fine in line with a lot of new stuff. It doesn't seem jarring and it doesn't seem like they're trying to go for the, sometimes when you see like the 3-camera setup of like a Full House or something, when a new show does it now, it feels like they're trying to be a little kitschy.
Yeah,
like
that's kind of how all those,
nostalgic.
like the Netflix ones are all usually formatted that way. We've done a few of those on here.
That's Mama's 3-camera shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that the shots were fine. It felt a lot like Superstore in the way that it was shot.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, it's coming from the same tree. It's Justin Spitzer who created both shows, so you can see how they're going to go about filming this in a similar tone.
Which I think is a smart idea too, right? Because whether or not you like Superstore, I think we all pretty much gave it a green light for the most part, but it was a very successful show that was on for like 8 seasons, so it seems silly if you're known for doing that one thing that people really liked, that you
and then
sort
you
of
do something else,
go too far away from it on your next big show.
Back to the episode itself, Catherine, the CEO, we find out that she's not only the first CEO that's female for Payne Motors, but also the first non-member of the Payne family to be the CEO. And then we get Wesley Payne, who chimes in telling everyone that he didn't want the job. And another person in the meeting replies with, well, they didn't offer it to you. He's like, yeah, well, I didn't want it anyways.
So can we just pull the Band-Aid off right now that he's Andy? Wesley is Andy.
I don't see him as
no,
Andy.
No, you know what I see is, so Wesley's played by John Barinholtz.
Barinholtz, yeah.
And he was in Superstore. He's
Marcus in Superstore.
Yeah, he wasn't in the pilot episode that we covered, but he had a long run on Superstore, and he plays the exact same character.
It's the same character.
It is. He's the
same character plus money.
Exactly.
A lot of Andy's the rich family. He's always talking about the lineage, all that stuff. even his dialogue, all I could see was Andy throughout the whole episode.
I mean, I can see you cutting a line to it, but I think that in my head, I just think of him as his exact same character from Superstore.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was so close to being the exact same person from Superstore that I couldn't even fathom him being anyone else.
I don't remember his character on Superstore.
He wasn't in the pilot.
Yeah, he was
but I watched the whole show.
Really?
He's the one.
A lot.
He's a
He's the
huge
one.
part of it.
Ferg, he's the one who makes boob cheese.
Okay.
I love that Nick knew that would be the thing that Ferg could clasp onto right away. The boob cheese.
As Sadie's presenting Catherine to everybody, Catherine cuts her short, and then she just wants to move forward with the meeting. She doesn't want too much fanfare about herself. And she wants to see the new car that they're working on. And this is when they show her the Ponderosa. And this is when Cyrus Knight, played by Michael Benjamin Washington, he stands up and he kind of gives this presentation, and she immediately cuts him off and starts critiquing the name of the car.
I like this show has there's a lot of these scenes where it's just people talking, but it's done really well, where everything they say I find so stupidly interesting. Like the stuff about the Ponderosa here and the conversation they have about other names with John Barinholtz coming up, I just think they were captivating to me.
Yeah, because they're like, it sounds like ponderous, like dull. And then they were trying to say like that the word originally derived from a tree. And then it also has like the word has roots from the Ponderosa lemon and the Ponderosa snails.
Right. And lemon is a term for a bad car.
Yeah. And a snail is the slowest animal. She's like, so what are you saying that this car is? Like a slow, non-working tree car? Like, what is this?
It's like a dull, slow, bad tree car. Which is so stupid. I love it.
But it's like a great point, right? When you think on a marketing standpoint, it's when you think back at the cars, more so when we were younger.
Impala,
when we were younger, it was like the Taurus, the Bronco, the Charger, the Ram, and you're like power. You're thinking speed and power. The Jaguar, and then you're like the Ponderosa. This lemon snail. Like what?
I can't hear Ponderosa and not think of Always Sunny.
I did the same.
I was gonna
bring
that up. Yeah, Billy Ponderosa.
Well, if you guys had to name the car, what would you name it?
Oh man, that's a good question. What'd you name your car?
Yeah, if you were in charge of it, like what would you name
specific car, knowing what I know about it?
No. Like if you were in their position and you had to come up with a name, what would be a good name for a car in your opinion?
The Mantis.
I would call mine Michael Gordon because I know it would be the worst car ever created, and then I could saddle that with you for the rest of your life. Like everybody hates Michael Gordon.
Damn.
Putter.
Damn.
It has to make that noise instead of the click, click, click when you do the.
It can't be an electric car though, because it has to be gas.
Hills.
I don't know. I mean, I think when you name a car, like I said, the way to go about it was you want something that makes you think of like speed or power or anything like that. So I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head in the moment. You caught me off guard.
Animal.
Every time I want to say something, it's something that's already a car. It's like
the cheetah.
I think that's a good point, though, right? Like, they've used a lot of good names for cars already. Like, what do you go with now?
That's why all the new ones are, nonsensical. Now it's just, the VF3. You're like, what?
Yeah, it makes more sense to call it its
We ran out
name.
of, cool, fast animals, so we're just going to call it shit like this now.
The COVID-20.
The COVID.
I drive a Tucson. It doesn't sound that cool.
It sounds rugged, though.
I don't know what a Tucson is.
It's a place in Arizona.
Yeah.
It's a very dry, arid place.
Is that what it's named after?
Yeah, because they also have the Santa Fe, New Mexico. They're all
that makes sense.
I never put that together.
Yeah, I didn't put the Tucson and Santa Fe together like that.
You notice there isn't one that's like the Worcester. No one's doing it for New England.
Actually, thinking about it too, Phoenix makes sense, right? But I guess you don't want to think about your car engulfed in flames.
That's true, yeah.
But your car also reborn.
So it's like a Batman car. It catches on fire, but then a little motorcycle shoots out of the middle of it. And you're like, nah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You can still get to work.
Sign me up.
But as they're talking about the name too, I want to go back to Wesley's character, because that's when he's like, well, to me it sounds dirty. Like Pawn sounds like poon, which means vagina, and DeRosa means of pink. So I just picture a giant pink vagina on wheels.
So I just want to point out they're very proud of this line because it was on every ad I saw for this show, nonstop.
I mean, to be fair, it's a very funny line.
It's funny, and you know what? I think it also shows that you're not being super clean cut. You're not afraid to kind of push the boundaries of what's going to be allowed on, cable television or network television.
I think it's more modern humor, though. Like that's like very 2020s. Versus,
I don't know. I think that joke would have went well in the 70s.
2020s. 2020s is super clean.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird now. I mean, I also think too. I don't want to bring up wrestling because I always bring up wrestling, but it blows my mind on wrestling now when all the time they're like, "This is shit. Everything you just said to me is shit, and your match was shit." And I am 36, and I'm like, "Oh my god, they're saying shit on TV so much right now." This is like broken into our heads for so long what like standards and practices are, and you have to like, I don't know, sort of, I'm sure to people who are 17 they're like, yeah, you can say poon all you want on TV. Instead we're like, I'm an old lady clutching her pearls in my living room like, can they go that far?
Do you remember when it was such a big deal that they made it so you could say shit on TV? They had the South Park episode,
South Park, yeah.
I think they said it like 600, like, no, it was like 200 something times.
Well, we've seen a lot of that change too. I remember, was it NYPD Blue where they showed Jimmy Smith's butt, and it was like all any TV show, like news show, talked about for 2 weeks. They're like, we're gonna see a butt on TV. Like, oh my god, and it's Jimmy Smith. Sign me up.
Your butts.
Meanwhile, other countries are like full nude on television, like in the daytime, and like it's just the most.
You could watch the all new Weather Girl.
Yeah, I was gonna say the naked news is currently like on TV in England right now, and they're just like, yeah, let's change the channel, Marge.
And just to close out this beginning scene, I like that they also talk about how there's cars that turns out that the words translate poorly, like if you go from Spanish to English, and like they have like negative connotations. And I think they said like the Chevy Nova and a few others. And then Sadie's like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that these companies don't have like at least one Spanish speaking person working for them. And that's when it's discovered that nobody there speaks Spanish either. And it's just that like awkward quiet after that because they realize that they're just like everyone else.
I do love the one bump before you cut right into the theme song too, is she just looks at everyone and goes, "Ah, Jesus, people." Yeah. And then you get the bomb, 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 ba-dang, ba-dang. It's like, it's a really great cut.
Yeah, and so, good transition that takes us right into the actual intro of the show. So yeah, it's just kind of like this doo-woppy music with kind of old photos of the early auto industry. Not much to it, pretty quick. I think it's fine.
And everyone is an old white person.
Perfect theme song for something like that. Like the Detroit auto thing, doo-wop came from there and stuff. Like,
yeah. It would either have to be that or it'd have to be like Ted Nugent or somebody big for like Wango Tango.
I would have thought actually Motown is the way to go more than the doo-wop style.
Motown would make sense if we had like a Martha and the Vandellas track or something. That'd be pretty sweet.
I don't know. I think it's fine. The intro's fine. I don't have like a big issue with it.
What?
Martha and the Vandellas? I didn't know. I've never heard of.
They're one of the bigger Motown groups. Your love is like a heat wave.
Yeah, they created the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Martha and the Vandellas. Sorry, I said it wrong. Nick, I'll send you a song later and you'll be like, oh, I know all these songs.
Well, you definitely know Heat Wave. But yeah, I mean, Joe could have easily said like Smokey Robinson or the Jackson 5 or the Temptations, but
then it wouldn't be Joe.
Yeah.
Heat Wave's my favorite Motown song. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a huge issue with it, but I think it's very forgettable. If you told me to like hum the theme right now, I wouldn't remember it.
I can. Well, I don't know. I feel like it reminds me of Blue Moon a lot, like the doo-woppy part of Blue Moon.
It put me in a good mood. It made me in the right state of mind for the show.
It would have been good if it was like if this was for Grease, the television show. If they made a TV series for Grease,
didn't they?
No.
Question.
I thought that they did.
To be fair, I'm with Gordo on this. They probably made a TV adaptation. To be fair,
I'm gonna go convert. I'm gonna go look that up.
They did a live TV thing that they've been doing now. Those kind of like live performances,
like a live play.
Yeah, like the all-star cast things. But yeah, there's no television show about it.
Then we're all in agreement as well that Grease 2 is the superior Grease movie, right?
No.
Grease 2, even greasier.
Reproduction is the best song in any of the Grease movies.
That is a good song.
There is.
Where does the pollen go?
Yeah.
So there is. Get ready to meet the new class at Rydell High.
Oh God.
Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. Premiere on Paramount Plus.
It's coming out now.
Yes, it is.
Of course, it's Rise of the Pink Ladies.
Rise of the Ponderosas.
When is it coming out? That's a good thing.
It's not a sitcom, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, it is. It's coming out on Paramount Plus.
Well, doesn't mean it's a sitcom. Bar Rescue's on Paramount Plus too, and we can't cover that, sadly.
On Monday, Paramount Plus unveiled the cast for its upcoming musical TV series, Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. Ba-boom.
It's actually just about Pink Lady apples, but
Those are delicious.
That
They are.
article came out in Entertainment
Granny
Weekly
Smith.
on January 31st, 2022. So that'll have to be it says it's a comedy.
we'll look into it. Maybe we'll do Rise of the Pink Ladies.
I hope that
Over
never
my
has to
dead
happen.
body.
Yeah, with Ferg,
You know
that's why I do not want
Just
do
to
that
be
at
a
all.
jerk, I'm picking it.
Well, let's move forward for
Can
now.
we
Let's,
veto Gordo again? Have to be the only person
Yeah,
that gets
to-
vetoed
to
twice.
date, Gordo's the only person we've ever vetoed an episode that he picked.
Well, I think we should start a theme here where, like, once every 6 months or something, somebody has a show they really love that nobody else wants to do, so they have to do the episode alone.
Oh, you mean
So
like we're doing
Jay,
cavemen?
yeah, Jay will do Cavemen alone. Gordo will do Pink Ladies alone.
Guys, if none of you want to participate for episode 100, then
It's not
that's
100.
fine.
It's
But
not 100.
You
But,
mean our Seinfeld episode 100?
You know as well as I do that it's our 1 year anniversary. Yay!
it is. We do. All right. To be honest, yes, our 1 year anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks or a few weeks now. It's like what, 3 or 4 from right now. This is what,
Yeah, somewhere near
episode
there.
49. So it would be episode 53. So yeah, so in another month or so, we will finally do Cavemen. And if I have to do it by myself, I will.
I bet our episode of Caveman gets more views than an actual episode of Caveman.
I bet it'll get more downloads and intelligence. Sorry, Schwimmer.
But alrighty. Let's go forward. So now, past the intro, we get to the next scene where everybody in the meeting's talking at the coffee area, and they're talking about Catherine, their new CEO. And Wesley's saying how his grandfather would be rolling over in his grave if he knew that someone like her was running the company, which they just assumed because he was like sexist and racist.
Which leads a long part of the story where they just constantly are referencing, and again, the Henry Ford thing, right? Because Henry Ford, noted Nazi supporter,
And,
but made a great car.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Then again, so did the Nazis, I guess, right? Because the
Volkswagen,
Volkswagen is
yeah.
a pretty...
Yeah.
I'm not saying... Oh, God. Oh, I just got canceled.
But anyways, yeah. Wesley's insisting no, it's not because of any of that, but because she doesn't even come from the car industry. She came out of like big pharma, and she doesn't know anything about cars. Which
So she's literally a drug dealer.
yes, and like that's not like the most uncommon thing though these days to bring in a CEO to a company that's not familiar with the industry that they work in. It's more in today's world. It's like, are you successful in business? We can teach you about the product. We just want to know that you have business sense.
That's a big
Exactly.
thing, especially in sales, right? If you're trying to increase profits and you did something well at one company, yeah, they'll just bring you over and be like, look, you can learn what a engine does later.
Yeah, but it showed later why that's an issue. Like, couldn't they have a successful CEO from another car company?
Possibly, but sometimes they just want fresh eyes because, like, even, if you look at the first scene, they're talking about the Ponderosa, and instantly she's like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Like, that a slow snail, like, lemon car? And, like,
Yeah, she immediately comes at it from a different angle.
yeah,
that
they
nobody else
were
would
all
have.
so far into it, you know what I mean? They can't see it from the outside perspective. So when you have fresh eyes, it does have
It
its
helps
benefits.
like eliminate the yes men, sort of. You know what I mean? Because everybody's just like, yes, okay, we will do that, and she doesn't want to.
Which like becomes an ongoing runner in the show because Catherine is so not engulfed in the auto industry. Sadie, who we come to find out is like obsessive with cars, is now trying to hide that from her boss throughout the whole episode to not look like she's just a fangirl who's just, all about vehicles.
It's weird to me that she's obsessed with cars in general.
Why?
But that's how it usually goes with cars. It's like you're into cars. It's not
Yeah.
like
Right, but
I'm
usually
obsessed
There's
with-
like train people, there's
Yeah.
car people.
No, I get it, but
plane
there are train people who love trains, but they really love steam engines, right? There are people who love music, but they really love, folk music. They like other kinds of music. They're obsessed with music, but they have like a concentration that they
Yeah,
really
but
care
that's not
about. Where
really-
it seems like they mention her, she has like Ferrari sheets and she works for this company. It seems like she just is a blanket car lover.
That's how a
versus,
lot of
like-
that fandom goes, though. A lot of people who are into like automotives, that
Yeah.
is it. You like if
Yeah,
you like
obviously they have a preference, but
yeah, but if you like muscle cars, let's say, it's not like one company made them. So
Sure,
you
yeah,
might
you
like a
like
certain
all.
type of car, but yeah, it might span over multiple different
Well,
companies.
it's like motorcycles too. Like you might love Harley Harleys, or you might love Indians, but like you like motorcycles.
Yeah, and I get that. It seems weird to me that she's so blanket. That said, I am the worst person to have an opinion on car lovers. I
Actually,
like cars.
it's been eating me alive because if you go back a few weeks to our Unhappily Ever After one, we're talking about used cars, and Joe's example is a 2-year-old Ford Bronco. Joe has no idea that Ford Broncos haven't existed in like 20 years and that they're just about to come back soon. So like I listened back to that episode.
They're already back.
And it killed me to not mention in the moment. I was like, why didn't I catch that? He mentioned a 2-year-old Bronco. Broncos didn't exist at the time.
Well, you got to flame me on it later, so don't feel too
We talked
bad.
about Broncos and the what was it? The NASCAR show.
The Crew.
The Crew. I believe we talked about the Broncos in that too.
Yes.
Well, I do love the old 70s, like the
course
pre-OJ
you do.
Broncos that are like the 2-door Broncos. That's probably why I was thinking of it. I don't know much about cars, but I really like those.
Like
Yeah.
the OJ car?
No, pre-OJ, not the ones that weren't that big. They looked more like a Jeep.
Oh, okay.
But getting back to it, Dory says that she's never worked for a woman before, and now she's not going to be able to like flirt her way out of trouble. But maybe she wished.
I do love a, huh?
And then everyone else is just pretty much afraid that they can get fired. Because, I mean, that's any company, right? When there's a new CEO, they usually kind of bring in their people.
Also, the actor who plays Dory has the best name ever.
Yes.
Her name is literally just X Mayo. like if you were ordering a burger and it was like, yes, mustard, yes, ketchup, X Mayo. Like, that's the best name ever. I love it.
I think the best name ever is Fibishwinkle.
Aw. Oh, Fivish. R.I.P.
But, yeah. And I looked her up, too, because I guess she's an actor, comedian, but she doesn't have a lot of credits.
She was a big writer on The Daily Show for a long time, and she like would appear occasionally on that, from what I remember. But to be honest with you, I haven't watched the. I think in the past few years, I don't watch it that often anymore. It's on when I'm already in bed at this point, so it's not a show I watch very often.
And then we get to Catherine and Sadie walking across like the building, and that's when Sadie's prepping Catherine for a big presentation she has later. That's the first time we really get like a really good look at the full building that they work in. And I think, again, to make these comparisons to Superstore, where they used an actual supermarket at one point, or at least a giant warehouse that they converted and then later switched, here it's a legitimate gigantic building. This isn't like a set.
You know what it reminded me of? The WWE headquarters.
Well, that's I mean, essentially just corporate headquarters, which, you know,
Yeah.
it's like a lot of places are very similar to this. So
Yeah, I do like this. I don't know. Sometimes I appreciate more. We did Intelligence last week, and I hated The Office in Intelligence. I don't know. It felt so overdone to be like, oh, it's a bland office. This one, I was like, I could see myself working here.
yeah, it's
Probably.
Very
more
relatable.
realistic.
People hated it.
But yeah, no, I think if you go back to like Intelligence, other than a few shots, like when they were at the security area and stuff, everything else was clearly a set. Where this seems like they're just using a big building that they converted to create Payne Motors, and that's how they're going to film.
It could have been NBC's headquarters too. I don't know. I didn't look into it, but it could very well be. NBC's.
My
It could be
guess,
an NBC building, yeah.
yeah, my guess without actually doing the homework, which maybe we should have done, is that they found a building for sale or whatever and just converted it and to make that like the studio. Because I think this is just another one of those shows that they knew with the lineage of the people behind it and the backing of the network that it's probably going to have like an okay run, like it's worth the investment. You're not making like a shoestring budget pilot, so you can kind of take the risk here.
Also, this is kind of like when we watched Hanging with Mr. Cooper and they used the set for an existing show. They used the set from
It's like the opposite of that.
Growing Pains.
That's them being like, we don't want to spend any money.
No, what I'm saying is they may have used this one set and then not gone back to it for, like, they could have been like, this is a building we have in our company somewhere. Let's film in these exterior shots for one day. Because I can't even remember if they go back to this.
It's
building in
actually
other
just
episodes.
a building on Universal Studios lot.
Okay.
That they
Well,
just
there it
had.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to figure sound stages are that size.
Yeah,
You know what
they're
I mean?
big.
Like they film like the Titanic in a soundstage, so they're just huge, massive buildings that they probably just rebranded for, you know, American Auto.
Sure. It also says that according to the Cinemaholic, somebody from the show reached out to Alessandra Uzzili, the great grandson of Henry Ford, for a tour of the Ford Motor corporate headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan. And that's where they drew most of the set design was from the actual Ford Motors corporate headquarters.
What was the person from Ford's name?
It just says Justin reached out to Alessandro Uzzili, Uzzielli.
All that was.
I've got a
just
feeling
wanted
Henry
you to
Ford
repeat that.
would not be a fan of that person being the head of their company now. This seems like a real life situation where they saw that and then met that person and were like, we could write this into the show. Henry Ford, noted not fan of names like that.
This is Wesley talking about his grandfather. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so from this scene too is when, as we talked about earlier, this is the finding out that Catherine really doesn't care about cars at all. She took the job for money, and this is Sadie hiding that she's obsessed with cars.
Which
Because-
is weird. I just find
I
it
agree.
weird. Like, you work at a car company, just friggin' own it. You're a girl that likes cars. I mean, if you want to go down that angle, but
It's just
like,
being
just
afraid.
fucking own it.
It's being afraid because this is
It's
your first
not that,
impression
it's a
with the
new
new
boss.
boss. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what?
It's the extent she went to hide it. It was like,
That's what
that
I
was
mean.
out of the bag fairly early. No, I don't like cars. That's
Yeah,
bad.
I don't
I think
get
new
it.
boss syndrome is the issue here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would think that you can parlay that into being like, well, you don't know a lot about cars. I do. I'm your right-hand person. I'll teach you.
Yeah, but the way it was presented was this was Catherine saying like, oh, you're not one of those people that like fetishizes transportation, right? So now she's like, oh no, she hates that. Like, I can't let her think that I'm this. So she's just trying to shy away from letting it be known how much he likes cars.
I like fetishizing all transportation too. Be like somebody who goes by on rollerblades and you're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Well, you know what? It's one of those things like that's real. Like, I work at the airport and there are people there who are obsessed.
planes.
There are people there that are obsessed with like
Airport, huh?
like,
Humble brag.
I don't own the airport. I work there. I wouldn't say that's much of a brag.
No, I mean, you're
We all know
right.
your last name is Logan.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
Jay, you're right, because when I worked at the hotel in town, a lot of people would contact me about being plane spotters. And they were like, we hear that your hotel is a great place to spot planes.
People are obsessed. I work with people who, when they find out certain aircrafts have like landed through other companies, like they'll go drive down and look at them and take pictures.
Okay,
Like,
so I have worked at the airport also. I'm not a Logan, but I've worked there. How can you... I mean, I worked there for a little while. Seeing a plane roll by you, like 40 feet away, is still mind-blowing every time. Like, it's just such
agree.
a massive piece of machinery that shouldn't look like it should move on the ground, never mind in the air. So, like, I was always amazed.
well, I
by
think there's a
those,
difference.
like-
So I think we're talking about kind of two different things. Yeah, I think the idea of flight is cool, like how that works. But there are people that's just a big hobby of theirs, where it's like, for me, it's not a hobby. Like, I think the fact that these things lift off and fly around is cool, and like being up near them, whatever. But there are people who are obsessed with models of them, like just like we said, like trains and cars and anything else, where people are very excited about little things about the industry that, like, for me, doesn't really do it. So I think when she says fetishizes transportation, I think there is a lot of similarities between airlines and trains and cars. Like they all kind of have similar fandom.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
And Sadie's response to her was what? Do I appreciate cars? Sure. Do I love them? I mean, define love.
I mean, that's a pretty big tell, right? Where she's obviously just like, I mean, it gets outed on her, but I mean, we talked about the new boss thing, but like, it would take her another 2 hours before she was going to gush about something to her and get it out of there, you know?
I mean, if Catherine said right off the bat that she loved cars, then Sadie would have gone, extensively telling her all about how much she loves this and that about cars and the details and flex her knowledge.
But she's
I also
just
feel
a
like it wouldn't have hurt if
kiss
she just said, yeah, I work at a car company. I like cars. And that would have been the end of that conversation. It wouldn't have had to drag on.
Or
Yeah.
can't she say, I'm not that into cars, but I'm good at my job, so I know this, this, and this about
Yeah,
cars.
but
Like,
again, I
yeah.
think you're trying to. I guess we didn't paint it well enough either. That from when you first meet this character of Sadie from the very beginning, she's very nervous and neurotic. Like, that is something that's very apparent with her from the very beginning.
Yeah, she's uncomfortable in her own
So
skin, it seems
yeah,
like.
so when you factor that in, and I guess that's something I should have mentioned much sooner. It makes a lot more sense that she would be afraid to tell her boss that she's not like-minded to how she feels about vehicles.
I do like that she had a whole presentation ready and she just cut her off at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like enough. Yeah, who cares about me?
I mean, I'd be happy. There's nothing that makes me more angry
Right?
than unnecessary spreadsheets, unnecessary presentations. We're like, can we just move on? We can get the minutes of this later, right?
Yeah, and as this conversation concludes, you can see a guy standing in front of what ends up being Sadie's office, and when she spots him, she gets really flustered. Like, she doesn't want anyone to know that the two of them know one another. So Catherine, her boss, is like, "Oh, do you know him?" And she's like, no. That guy? No, I have no idea." And it's like, well, it looks like he's trying to talk to you. And then she's like, well, I guess I'll see what that's all about. And heads over and they eventually head into the office.
Now, this guy, Ty White, I wanted to bring this up because recently I've had my mind blown, and please just follow along with me for a moment. So
Time for story time with Joe, baby.
This isn't story time, but we're gonna go some places here, okay? So this guy Ty White, the one place I knew him from is he is in the O.J. Simpson, like the People versus O.J. thing that FX did.
With Cuba?
With Cuba's in it, and is John Travolta in it, I think, too?
Yes.
Right, yeah. So he plays Jason Simpson, who's O.J.'s son from his first marriage. He was kind of like 24 or 25 when the murders happened. A guy recently wrote a book called O.J. is Innocent and I Can Prove It. And it's like 1,000 pages. And I have dug so deep on this guy's theory. And his theory is that this character, Jason Simpson, the older Simpson son, is actually the one who killed Ron and Nicole. And I 1,000% believe it. The evidence
Get the glove. Test
is
the glove on him.
staggering. And if you start looking up the evidence to this, you're gonna have your minds blown.
Joe, all you have to do is just read "I did it," and OJ lays it out plain and simple.
If I
how
did it.
he did it.
If
I have read
No,
I did it,
I
or
have
how I
the-
if I did it, how I do it, whatever it's called. I have read
Yeah.
that book. I actually bought it at Neighborhood Comics and got the stink eye from the guy behind the counter when I bought it, and I was like, I just want to be informed.
One
I
of
got
my
it at the library for 25 cents.
One of
in
the
their, like,
hardest
book room.
I've ever laughed in my life is when back when the whole OJ thing was happening, they did a Mad TV sketch about the whole "if I did it" thing, and it was OJ giving a tour of the house, and they say that I hit my head on this air conditioning unit. Now, if I lived here and I knew it was here, how could I have hit my head on this air conditioning unit? And then he turns around and hits his head on the air conditioning unit, and I fucking lost it. It has stuck with me for years.
Well, to be fair, I think he did know about it because I'm pretty sure his son goddamn did it, and he was helping to cover it up. And there is a lot of interesting evidence, and I don't want to give this guy's probably an insane person. I'm not saying you should go buy his book or anything, but like you can do some pretty easy free research where a lot of these theories, you're like, I don't know, that kind of makes sense. You think that like this guy would be covered. Nobody checked on the son the next day, see if he was covered in blood or had scratches
How
all
old
over
was
him.
the son at the time?
Like 24.
Oh, so older than I thought, yeah.
Yeah, he's older and he had some anger issues and some stuff going on where it's a pretty compelling theory.
So I want to ask one last question. I just want a yes or no answer, and then we got to move on because I don't want to talk about OJ for the whole episode. But according to this theory, was OJ aware that his son was going to do it before he did it?
No.
Okay. All right. So moving on now. So Sadie meets up with this guy in front of his office, and he's like, "Oh, it's so nice. I've never been up to this level before." And they head into her office, and this is when Sadie's like, "Listen, I'm sorry. Last week was fun, but it was a mistake, and we just got a new CEO, and you know, I don't want her to find out that I was involved with anyone from work, let alone the factory, and you know, not just the factory, but any employee in general." And Jack's like, "Wait, yeah, okay. Are you trying to have me transferred?" And she's like, "Wait, what?"
This whole scenario with her talking with the CEO outside the office and then in the office, I got huge Amy from Superstore vibes.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that,
okay.
yeah. So this is an Amy and Jonah scenario for you?
Yeah, similar, very similar.
I can see that, yeah.
And just almost her mannerisms were the same. She's just trying to play everything off, keep everything private, but she's still doing weird shit at work, so she really shouldn't expect that anyways. It's a similar vibe.
So she's like the Australia Ferrara of the show.
Waka waka. Yeah. So essentially, so this whole conversation though is Sadie and Jack have hooked up at like a one-off at a party.
There was a retirement party or something. They had a few
Right.
many drinks and they went home with each other.
And now she's nervous that her boss is going to find out that she hooked up with a coworker and think less of her. So secretly, she's trying to have him transferred to a different shop in Wesley or whatever it was.
This is an insane thing to me because obviously companies don't want you to date. And I've had, every year you have to update your HR packages or whatever you have to sign. And it all has changed in our time a bit to say like, we don't encourage, but we understand it happens. But like a lot of people end up dating people they work with because when you work someplace for 100 hours a week, that's who you see and that's who you meet. Full disclosure, that's how I met Kelsey, right? Like we met working together. So I feel like it's kind of weird that I think this is like an underlying thing where she just doesn't want people to know that she hooked up with somebody who's so below her, not that she hooked up with somebody from work.
Yeah, she says it at
Yeah.
first, but then she like backtracks. She's like, "Oh, someone from the factory." She's like, "Oh, not like the factory, but anywhere."
I think she's a boss, and she shouldn't be sleeping with employees that are under her.
Yeah, but then also, like, if you're not a
Well, hold
director-
on,
I'm not
wait.
saying that's what I think. I'm saying that's how I think she thinks. I'm sorry.
For the record, though, they did not clarify if when they did it, if he was under her or not. They didn't talk about positions.
He may have been on top of her, yeah.
So hold on. So to piggyback off of that, what do you guys think her position is? Because I think she's just like an executive assistant.
She
I would
seems
assume
like a
from
missionary.
behind.
Oh.
I like how Gordo's cat screaming capped that off.
She wants to supervise.
That's cat for not funny.
No, I mean, like, what's her position in what? The idea of
The company.
It's still your cat. Your cat's mad because they're being two friskies.
they they say what her actually they don't specifically say, right? Because later in the episode, Catherine tries to present Sadie to a crowd and doesn't know her job title. So I
That's
don't think
true, yeah.
we don't find out exactly what it is she does. We just know she's rather high up.
I assumed it went by order of the table, and she was number 2 in the company.
Yeah, I mean,
See,
she's
I
definitely
just-
high up.
I got that she was just like the CEO's assistant, like the executive assistant.
No, I think that's who Dory is.
Yeah, and anyways, the only other thing that I want to bring up from this conversation too is Jack trying to catch her in a lie by saying like, "Oh, so who was it that talked to you when I was recommended for this transfer? Was it Sean?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, it was Sean." Wow, which Sean? Oh, I don't remember his last name. He's like, "Really?" Because there's not a single Sean that works here. She's like, "It's awfully hard to believe." It's
I
like,
said the
what-
same thing, same time as her. I said it's awfully hard to believe.
Yeah,
If
it's
she
not
had just gone with Greg, then we would have had no issues because there's definitely a Greg down there.
yeah, Greg
Payne.
Payne.
There it is.
And then we see there's like a quick scene where Catherine runs into Wesley and Dory, and Wesley's like still like the whole thing with him is it's him trying to pretend that he doesn't want to be the CEO, but he's bitter about Catherine getting the job over him because he thought that was just like because of his namesake, it was just going to be handed to him.
His legacy.
So it
But
cuts
it's
over.
It's a classic character, though, of like, who wants that? If somebody said to you, okay, Ferg Motors is not going to be run by Ferg today, but you're going to keep all the money and live this life you have, and you don't have to do any of the work. I think at a point, he's like our age. I'd be like, that sounds fine with me. I don't want to be working, doing this shit every day.
Ferg Motors located in Fergburg.
Ferg, that's true.
This is also when Dory tries to test this whole theory of whether or not she's going to be able to flirt with Catherine to get in and out of trouble. And Catherine asks her, "Hey, if anyone calls, I'm going to be down the track. Can you just handle all the AV stuff?" And she's like, "Me? Like, the most technology I don't know how to use is my hair curler and my vibrator." She's like, "Right?" And then just deadpan silence from Catherine.
I do love, too, like the 90s stand-up comedy. Like, am I right, ladies? Am I right? I got my vibrator down at the Starbucks.
I'd imagine if there was a studio audience, you'd get one. Woo!
The one person. I just want to
Whoa.
find, I wish we could go back in time and find the one person who they always got to go like, woo, when one person took their shirt off, so we can get them to guest on our show. Just throw that one like shirt off woo in every once in a while.
And then after all this weird exchange between them, because she corrects herself and says, "Actually, no, I'll figure it out because I'm a professional." We get them down at the test track. And it's like this fake block made out of like cartoony cardboard cutouts of like a little town with people in it. This is where they test the new vehicles, I guess.
It's also where in every cop movie from the 70s and 80s they test shooting and like a family
So
walking
that's
out of
what
the
I wrote
grocery
down.
store
Yeah.
comes out.
What it
Yeah.
reminded me of was the shooting scene in Men in Black.
No, it reminded me
Yes.
of the shooting scene from Police Academy when he's got the shotgun and he accidentally shoots the child one. And then
I
he
was
turns
thinking
to the
Police
crowd and
Academy
they all
too, yeah.
drop.
Well, that's it. That's just like the Men in Black one with the girl with the physics books and whatever, the little girl.
Yeah. You always end up shooting the wrong one. Dirty Harry has one in Dirty Harry 2.
But yeah, that's what it reminded me of. I was like, is this how they test cars? Because this block seems a little like small for that.
Yeah, that's a thing though. If you go to Disney, they have that test track ride, which teaches you all about the industry, and they have that whole little That's what that whole ride's like supposed to be.
So yeah, at this point, it's the Ponderosa, right? The car that they were talking about. It's a self-driving car. So in the car is Sadie, Catherine, Cyrus, and Elliot. I don't know if we really talked about Elliot much. Elliot's was he English?
Yeah, he's English.
He's another like guy who works for the company. I don't really know how to describe. I don't know what his specific role is. Where
He's
Cyrus,
their chief counsel. He's like the legal.
okay,
on
where
the whole
Cyrus,
situation.
who we talked about earlier, he's a little bit more the person who's in charge of like the specifics and details behind like the technology and
It's
stuff like
the
that.
engineer.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the head engineer designer. And this guy, Elliot, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's in Kimmy Schmidt a bunch. I don't know if you guys watched that show.
I did
But he's-
early on, the
he's in
first
that.
couple seasons. But yeah, so the four of them are in the car, and to get it to start driving, Cyrus goes, "Oh baby, drive us around the block." So that's like their version of the "Hey Siri" or the Alexa. It's just saying "Oh baby."
It's also just like the lyric to a like NSYNC song from 1997.
Oh, which one?
I believe it's called "Oh Baby, Drive Me Around the Block."
But then they get into a conversation about how it's sexist to say "oh baby" to get the car to drive, because to call a girl baby. And he's like, well, who said that the car is a girl? And then the examples being used, well, all cars are girls. And then, ain't she a beaut, things like that. And when all those examples are said, you think about it a little bit. And I was like, I guess cars are always referred to as female.
See, I always thought it was
Cars,
boats.
yes. No, everything that people, a lot of like inanimate objects are female. Like we refer to our country as a woman, we refer to cars, we refer to boats, we refer to like guitars and so forth and so on. It's all feminine in that.
Why is that?
No idea.
Is a self-moving car though no longer an inanimate object?
It's in inanimate objects.
Kit was a man,
It moves itself. Kit, you're right.
Kit was a man, yeah.
voiced by Mr. Feeney.
Really?
You don't have to yell, Michael. I'm all around you.
So, so they start driving around, and as they're going down the street, you get this little cardboard family start to go across the street. And that's when the car recognizes it and is able to stop. So they're testing the AI in this self-moving car.
Who was this for, by the way? Like, I know they're working on this now, but like, why make a car that can drive itself? It just seems like,
So,
are you drunk at the
Teslas.
bar and you still want to get home?
they
Good
already-
thing the car works.
They exist
Teslas.
already.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
those exist, and when
Right,
they
but for
first
who,
came
though?
out, much like this, they were driving into lakes and shit. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The Google car.
like a big
I hit
deal.
somebody. Yeah.
Like Michael Scott's GPS goes right into a lake. It just seems bad. It doesn't seem like, I don't want a self-flying car, a plane rather, or a self-driving car. Like, it's a little,
It's
I want someone there to hit the brakes.
It's basically you are there to hit the brakes. You can override it manually at any point in time.
Yeah, you can, but then somebody gets too comfortable, like I said, coming home from a bar and they're like, I'm wasted, go home. And then they're
guess
passed
what?
out
Then
in the
they're
front
not going to
seat.
get into an accident.
You don't know that because you
Gordon's
don't.
right though. That's the one fix to the overall problem of this whole episode. You just put a brake and say that's the only thing you
Yeah,
need to worry
if it
about.
still had it, this
Exactly.
car has no brake, and that's a problem.
That's-
and I have a
that's a
Roomba,
weird- yeah,
and Roombas
that's-
are stupid.
That's a weird feature of the car, is that it doesn't even have a brake.
It should have brakes on both sides, like a driving school car, like it's Pat.
And also for like
That movie.
this big
It's a great
innovative
movie.
self-driving car, like their big like presentation car, it's not that flashy looking of a car. It's like nothing special to look at if it was like on the road.
What kind of money were they gonna spend to design an actual car? Like
That's what it is. That's what they have to do. You're designing a car that you're going to
No,
present
but
to
I'm
the
saying
world.
for the
For this,
TV
yeah.
show, like the
It looked like a
production
Rolls
company.
Royce, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't
Kind
think
of-
it looked bad. I mean, like it looks like anything else, like a Honda or whatever.
Yeah,
It's just like a modern
I just
looking
thought it looked
car.
awfully plain for what I would imagine the price point for this car to be when it hits market.
We'll
We
look at
don't know if
Teslas.
that's the actual car too. That's just the test version. That probably wouldn't be what they'd show to the people.
Isn't that what they were going to show to the people, though?
I don't know. I assume that in case that gets nicked and scratches and crashes.
There must be a couple of them at least, right? Yeah, because if that thing doesn't work and you run over something or hit something or a fire hydrant, you still need the one that you can show as like a pristine car.
And as this conversation within the car is happening, outside of it, we see Jack and he's talking to Wesley outside of the car. And they're just having a conversation. They're independent of everything that's going on. They just happen to also be at the test track for whatever reason. And Wesley's basically just talking more shit about Catherine, and he's mentioning his grandfather again and saying how he wouldn't approve. And Jack's like, "Why? Is she Jewish?" So this is like this is a
Keep going
a
with it.
running joke, yeah, about the grandfather. And as the conversation's like continuing, Jack's inching closer to the street, and from inside the car, they have no way of stopping it because like the AI in the car doesn't it's just not responding. So you hear Cyrus sounding like, "Baby stop, oh baby stop."
But yelling baby stop.
But yeah, it eventually hits Jack. The thing about this was the car wasn't moving that fast. You're on the test track, and I understand it's like they're just trying to get the story out there. But in what world, the way they presented it, would Jack have not seen this car coming?
This is like an Austin Powers when he's like, stop! And he's 100 feet away. Yeah.
That was the only thing that really took me out of that scene was how is he unaware that this car is coming down the middle of the street of the test track that you happen to be standing in the middle of?
I'm just mad when it hit him, his arms and legs and head didn't all pop off like the crash test dummies when we were kids, because that would have made this scene so much more fun.
I think then the show would have to be on HBO.
That's true.
So then, like, after the inevitable collision, it cuts to a commercial there. And then when it comes back, we're seeing the aftermath. And Jack's just sitting on a bench, icing himself. He said the impact wasn't that bad, so he's generally okay. And everyone's standing around, and Cyrus runs up explaining that he thinks he knows what happened. And he's saying how the car identifies objects using machine learning. Well, the operative word is learning, and it still confuses dark tones with shadows. So occasionally, certain darker optics come off as not there. And then they ask him to specify, and he's like a black cat, or a dark blue car, or darker brown skin. I don't think we've mentioned it at this point, but Jack is not a white man, so his darker brown skin apparently was not identified by this car's AI and just thought he was some sort of a shadow, and we get the world's first racist car that hits black people.
Which is actually...
my issue with that is he was wearing clothes. The clothes weren't black.
So there was a webcam or a laptop that had a webcam in it that had this issue years ago. And the point of the webcam was it had motion tracking. So if you moved over to the right of the screen, the little camera would actually pan to the right and follow the subject. But it wouldn't work with people with darker skin. And they basically could not fix it and just removed it from everything and never used it again. Like,
wow, it's unfixable.
Yeah.
What's weird to me, this too, is like it's a very business thing where it's like you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. So they're like, even if it didn't hit people of color who were actual people, they were also fine with this self-driving car running over cats and hitting blue cars, which I feel like is also a huge problem before you go to market.
Yeah, like how much, because later on they talk about, well, why didn't you test it more? And it's like, well, all the cardboard cutouts are just white people. But yeah, if it can't identify like a blue car, then yeah, they have a
that's
world
a
of
problem.
Problems. Yeah,
that's lawsuits. I guess just don't buy a blue car.
And I like also at this point when they realize that this car's racist, Wesley goes, what would Ewell Payne have said if he saw that we designed the first racist car? And
well done.
Like, well done, probably.
So matter of fact.
I love when Dory's talking about how, because of her dark skin, the soap dispenser doesn't pick up on it. And they're like, well, that's not an automatic soap dispenser.
Yeah, you have to actually use your hands for that.
She's like, well, I've been bringing my own soap in for a while, and I like it.
The soap dispensers are push button. That's so fucking great. As opposed to the fun soap dispensers where you got to do this to them.
And for an audio podcast, you're doing what?
Oh, I'm jerking off the dispenser, and then it shoots out the white soap. And then no matter how old you are, you go, and then you wash your hands like an adult.
So as they're finding out all these things about the shadows and how the car's not registering the AI properly, Catherine's like, how are you just figuring this out now? In the pharmaceutical industry, we would test products before they announced it. And Wesley's like, didn't stop all those babies from being born without heads. And she's like, they had heads, they just weren't attached to their bodies. And you're like, what?
Big Pharma is terrifying.
It's funny though, because like that's like a one-off joke, and like other shows have done this too, where the joke is so much darker than the way it's presented that you don't understand the weight of what was just said because it's like a quick one-off line.
But I also feel like, does that mean the head came off during the birth? Or otherwise, I imagine an ultrasound would be able to notice that you're like, you're having twins, I think. Oh, no, you're not. That's something totally different.
Was that a real thing or not?
I hope not.
I hope not. Yeah, I'm hoping that they wouldn't make light of something that horrifying.
Yeah, if that was like a real thing, I think it would be in really poor taste to bring up.
Although,
you name every baby Ichabod.
Companies have come a long way, but they had to start somewhere, so I wouldn't be surprised if in the beginning of drug testing that this was something that happened, or at least something equally as morbid.
Wasn't there a pharmaceutical company? It was something with like babies being born with like holes in their hearts from it.
I'm sure, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, like you find out, there's always the thing too, is we always go into things with the best of intentions and then find out that they can maybe do bad things for you. And that's a lot of even just medicine you take when you are pregnant.
Unless you're Bear, who knowingly sold AIDS-contaminated drugs to third world countries because they still had to get rid of them and are still an active company today somehow.
Wait, AIDS, the drugs were AIDS contaminated?
So yeah, there was some sort of vaccine or whatever, and they had been contaminated with AIDS and couldn't sell them in the European American markets. So knowing that they were contaminated with AIDS, sent them to third world countries and still allowed them to be used. And they ended up, it settled like not too long ago for like billions of dollars, but all they did was pay and they just keep going. Like it's insane. Yeah.
What company?
Bayer. Like Bayer aspirin.
I had to just get a very specialized medication thing that I've never heard of before, and it's from Bayer, and it's Bayer Australia. And now I'm like, this is too many things in one episode we're talking about, and I'm very worried about taking these pills tonight.
So I guess that the only thing I could kind of find was a German drug firm issued an apology over birth defects tied to thalidomide, which caused thousands of babies to be born with shortened arms and legs or no limbs at all. And
this is literally in We Didn't Start the Fire. It's Children of Thalidomide.
Yeah.
oh, is that what the word is? Oh, okay.
Watergate punk rock.
There it is.
Okay, so yeah, that's the only thing that I could see when I did a rudimentary Google search was
From one William Joel.
Theomidine.
Anyways,
Thalidomide. It is thalidomide.
as they continue to talk about this racist car, this is when they're like, well, we need to present something. This is big presentation for the car later in the evening, which I don't understand why they can't just cancel it and say like, hey, something happened, like with technical difficulties, but whatever.
Because it would probably affect the stock.
That would make sense.
Yeah. So that's true. It could be a stock thing because they do check
like
that
they're
later.
worried about, if you're going to announce a new car and then you don't, your stock will plummet immediately.
So like, we have to announce something, and that's when it comes up like, well, we never said that it was going to be a self-driving car. That was the announcement. So they don't know what we're going to say. So let's just find something else to do, and then we can make that the presentation.
You know what I would have done? I would have faked it. I would have had a self-driving car that didn't really drive itself, and I would have drove around and be like, yeah, that did it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you flash forward to later in the episode, the actual presentation, it's not like they take the car for a spin. It's just like on like one of those, rotators so you can see the car. So you can just announce it does all this stuff, and then if it's not ready, it's not ready.
Out later.
The entire second half of this episode is the episode of The Simpsons where Homer invents the car, like the Homer.
Yes.
That's exactly what this whole thing is with Unky Herb. Like, it's to a T, and then exactly it's spinning around, and it's a nightmare. Like, it's so funny how much I was like, this is literally just that Simpsons episode.
Simpsons did it.
So they find out at this point they have about 6 hours until the presentation, and they have to think of a new innovative feature. And then Catherine's like, I'm sure nothing will be as innovative and exciting as the Klansmobile over there, but but let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. She then invites Jack to come upstairs with them to get like his perspective. And since the car just essentially created a hate crime.
I immediately thought of The Goods, which is another car movie, or the opening scene. He's just like, we've all just participated in a hate crime. And The Goods is a great movie.
It is a great movie. I'm also surprised nothing came up with like Jack threatening to sue them because he just got hit by a car at work.
Well, they just upgraded him to an office position. I think he probably thought better of it, right?
Not at the time.
Not yet. But and I want to mention before we move on, actually, the scene ends with Dory asking, hey, tell me this. Would the car also hit a white person if they were in blackface?
Blackface.
And he's like, probably. And like everyone cheers. Like, yay.
It's a silver lining.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, right on, lead with that. So in the next scene, we see Sadie and Cyrus, they're walking through the building, and Cyrus is complaining that everyone is blaming him for the systematic racism and is also asking him, a black guy, to fix systematic racism. And Sadie's like, well, at least you're not being forced to work with someone that you had sex with. And that's when Cyrus is like, oh, like this is when he finds out that she had slept with Jack. And she's like, I've never even flirted with coworkers before. Like, the one time I make a mistake and I'm stuck with it forever, like herpes. And he's like, a lot of people have herpes. It's not a big deal anymore. And she's like, what? No, I don't have herpes. He's like, well, who'd you get it from?
My favorite herpes joke. One of my favorite jokes I've ever written. Why would you want herpes when you could have your own peas? Peas are very inexpensive. You can just go buy peas on your own. It's like the Joeist joke ever. And I love any time I get to use it. I don't write that down. That's just mine, baby. That's classic Joe. And now someone's going to steal it when they hear this podcast, and they're going to get a Comedy Central deal out of it.
Nobody wants that.
I would love
probably
nothing
not,
more.
no, but my joke is fantastic.
I would love nothing more to see like a new Netflix special for some comedian, and they just tell that one joke and leave. It's like 40 seconds long.
And if that bothers you, then you're the problem, bitch.
It's that, and then just a bunch of 9/11 jokes. We're like, guys, I think we have a problem. Get my lawyer on the phone.
So now we cut to another meeting upstairs, and everyone's upstairs now, and they're trying to figure out the new feature this car can have. Starts with Dory presenting like the idea of a car with two horns, like a a happier horn and an angry horn, depending on what you need it for.
Which I don't hate,
I
by the
love
way.
that.
I
It's a
like
good
that
idea.
idea.
It's
Yeah.
not the worst idea.
A thank you horn and a fuck you horn. That's
Because
what
if you ever
need.
had an
Yeah.
like a situation where you needed to honk at someone, but you don't want to come off aggressive,
That's when you
Like-
give the two quick ones. You go beep beep instead of
Yeah,
beep.
that's
Yeah.
somebody didn't notice the light turned green and they're not moving in traffic, and you don't want them to come out of the car and start shooting at you. You need the little like beep beep. Hey, just letting you know, bud. There's a light change.
Oh no, that's a.
Yeah, I'm with Ferg on that. That's a.
I'm
just
not
feel like
that.
the
I'm
world's-
not that angry about that.
The
stuff.
world's too wily now. You got to be careful. You don't want to be too aggressive because someone might
I
come
know,
back
Flip
I'll
and
them
do
run
off
them
something
over
too.
with my
Get out of
car.
your car. I'll hit you with mine.
Exactly, Gordo.
All right.
Okay, so now that we
Right,
can
this is-
identify the two
Gonna go in for
psychopaths,
2 revoked licenses.
How am I going to be the one with the revoked license if you're coming out of your car trying to hit me? Excuse me. Sorry. Self-defense.
Self-defense, baby.
yeah. So like, I don't know that. Yeah, that wasn't the worst idea. What about you guys? Like, would you guys think of in this moment when this was all coming up? Did you guys think of something that you wish your car could do that you would add as a feature?
I put a gun on my car.
Jesus. It's like another Batmobile scenario. I feel like we've just described
Well, you know,
the
like you
Batmobile
have
a
the
lot.
like a Mazda. They have the little hood ornaments. It's kind of like a bomber. You know, you could just be like, "Bleh." You know, it
The
could be
right
a water
answer-
gun. I didn't say it had to be a gun. It could be like a water gun. It could
Honestly,
be
I
like
got
a
the
BB
I
gun.
got the backup camera in mine, and that's so common now. But I'm happier than a pig in shit with it. So you don't have to go too crazy to impress me.
I got my
My
car
money-
a year before they became standard with backup cameras, so I don't have one, and it bums me out all the time.
I don't
I-
think I'd buy a
I
car.
do enjoy
without
having one now. Yeah, the car I just got a couple months ago is the first time I've had one.
But now that cars have those, a new feature should be some way to use the bathroom. That
Yeah,
is
it's
the
called a
dream
trucker
feature
bomb.
in a car.
It's called
Just
trucker
it's
bomb.
not practical enough because, I mean, who's driving that much that you can't pull over and go to the...
Truckers.
And they
Those are
figured out a
piss
way.
jugs.
That astronaut lady who had to wear diapers the entire drive because she refused to stop a couple years ago. Remember that?
I do
Sounds like a
remember that.
personal
Yeah.
problem.
Well, I mean, she could have stopped, and she chose diapers. She found a solution. It's just I would much rather be able to. I don't know. Ever try to pee in a
We
beer
can get
can in
you
a car? It's
diapers.
very hard.
In a beer can? No, you'll cut yourself.
Well, that's
No,
the
no,
problem. That's why it's hard.
You use 20. No, you use like a 5-gallon like water jug. Like truckers do it. They use
Sure,
that.
if you
and then
have
if they
one
get
in the
mad at
car,
you also have a
not everybody
melee
has an
weapon.
empty 5-gallon jug in their backseat.
You know what
Like
I
you might
wish
have a Coke can.
would come around more, though? Wise has kind of tried to do it. It doesn't really work well. But open communication with other drivers would be cool. Like, getting information from up ahead of you. Like, you know, you can just say, hey, I've been sitting in traffic for 25 minutes
Waze
now.
does that.
I know.
Doesn't-
It doesn't... nobody actually uses it, though.
Doesn't Teslas, aren't you able to talk to other Teslas? Not to keep bringing them up, but like I think that is a function that you can like set like
That's not very
messages
helpful
and
though
stuff.
if there's like 20 of them and there's not one anywhere near you.
That's
If it
what I
was, like,
thought Nick
if it was
meant was like,
Hondas, you know,
I thought
maybe,
Nick
but-
meant like an intercom system from car to car. And all I can think of is how terrible that would be if,
Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Yeah.
hey, fuckface, it's a green light.
Well, I mean,
All
that's
I
just
would be
basically
doing-
what ham radio was, or not ham radio, but like
CB.
CB radio rather in car, right? Smoky, breaker,
Everyone
breaker.
would record them, and it would make for the best YouTube videos, though.
I'd be going.
But no,
That's why people would turn it off because they wouldn't want to like they'd know your license plate. They would know you as like a menace on the road and just not want to deal with you.
Like
Like
Gordo's
they
driving
don't
around
anyways.
with a license plate that just reads fart, and they all know it's him.
But to go back though, when I was thinking about features, I guess like my mind was like thinking more like the old like Pimp My Ride episodes and the stupid shit that they put in those cars.
Like hot tubs and bars and shit.
It's like, I know you like to drink coffee, so we put an espresso
That's
machine in
exactly
your car.
what I was thinking of
Yeah.
with the coffee maker and the fucking
Yeah.
cup holder. This is the dumbest shit ever.
As you drive by 40 drive-through coffee
we-
shops.
We
It's
put
like,
an
why are you
N64
doing
in your
this?
car. It's like, yeah, but I can't play N64 while I'm driving. So,
So pull over.
Great! Ah!
yeah.
And
I don't
also,
know, yeah.
no, I'm sure there are people who crash their cars daily because they're on their phone playing games or something. You
Yeah,
know what
I mean, I'm sure if I gave myself like more time to really think about it, I could think of like actual more features. But some of the newer things that have like we said, like the backup camera and like Bluetooth being so readily available in cars now, and we don't need those fake cassette play, the fake cassettes to like get your CDs to work and all those things. We've come a long way in a short amount of time.
I know we like surprises on this show, so it's all like organic, but something like that, can you prepare us for so I can have really good answers?
I'll send you guys, next time I'll send you guys
A list of
quiz.
questions.
Yeah.
I would like a Cheez-It dispenser and a toilet to sit on while I eat the Cheez-Its. That would be the ideal situation for me.
You should just be able to pull back like the drive, like similar to like a sunroof. You should be able to do that with your seat and have it just go right down like a plane,
Like a Flintstone car?
just dropping a deuce. Like
I don't want to
though,
look out and see someone shitting next to me.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Backtrack. Like a plane? Do you think that's what happened when you go to the bathroom in a plane?
Yes.
Do you think it just gets jettisoned into the sky?
That's not what happens.
That only happens on Dave Matthews Band's tour bus. Satellite.
You mean that doesn't happen?
No, it goes into a gray tank. They have to empty it when they land.
Yeah.
I don't know. Joe Dirt taught
You
me
really
that
think they're just firing dookies out the back of a fucking plane when they're flying?
We live across from an airport. You've never gotten hit by a shit fall from the sky.
Guess what? You can't go and do anything while you're taking off or landing.
Yeah, that's why you've never been hit by shit in your life from an airplane.
To be fair, though, I'm sure that like if you're a flight attendant and you have to pee, you'll go to the bathroom when you're at takeoff or landing because you're just like what's
I've
going
been
on.
pooping while landing before. Well, I couldn't wait.
Poor Gordo. What if he was outside at the time? I can't believe. I feel like we're not making a big enough deal about the fact that Gordo is 36 years old and just found out that poop doesn't fly out of the plane when you flush.
He just assumes there's a hole at the bottom of the plane.
I just figured that it just went like, whoop, whoop, like one of those, like, you know,
If it went that way, it would suck your butthole out of your butt. It would.
The
No,
cabin
because
would,
it gets dropped to a little thing, and then it just kind
The
of,
whole-
like when you're over the ocean, it just goes bloop, and it feeds the fish.
the whole cabin would lose pressure as soon as like the hole opened up.
No, it wouldn't. If it dropped to like a think of like a missile, right? You launch a
We
missile
know
into
what
a thing.
you're saying, Gordo. We're just telling you it's not possible.
I thought you were gonna say we know what a missile is, Gordon.
And like, if this was true, like, imagine the flyover states, like people in like Nebraska and Iowa, just constantly
Guess
getting.
what? They have crops. They need manure. Guess what? I think we're onto something here.
Pauly Shore is just farming. He just gets hit by a big piece of shit in the face.
Thank God I'm a country boy, buddy.
I'm just saying, you know, if you're doing it over the ocean, fish will eat it, or plankton.
I mean, also too, like you're flying at 30,000 feet. Okay, it's a piece of shit. Isn't that big? But it's at terminal velocity probably by the time it hits the
true, yeah.
ground. So that would hurt.
I also like we're doing a modern sitcom about cars, and Gordo found out a way to use the word plankton in the episode. I never would have fucking guessed that was coming. It's like when you reference plankton, Gordo. I love the way your brain works. It is fascinating to me.
That shit would
Thank
freeze
you.
and kill somebody. Nick's right.
Imagine being at that wake and like finding out how the person died.
He was farming, doing what he loved.
Man,
Call,
what
this,
happened?
call this my video, Will. If I die that way, don't plan a wake for me.
I would like to think that we'd all be invited to Pauly Shore's funeral.
man.
That would be kind of awesome.
Did you hear what happened to Greg?
Frozen
Poor
food
Greg.
for the eye.
Frozen shit from 30,000 feet. Impaled him.
The worst thing about that is by the time the paramedics and the fire department come, it's no longer frozen, and that's just a way worse scenario. You know, it's
Isn't
gonna
it just
thaw
gonna be
out.
like, it's poop again?
The coroner. Yep, it's poop again.
That's the day the coroner quits his job. He's like 1 day to retirement. He's been on the job for 40 years, and they're like, you gotta sort out what is the hip bone from the leg bone in this pile of shit, and he's like, fuck it.
Or
Fuck
in
my
Gordo's
pension,
world,
I
he
quit.
quits
I'm
because
not
it's like
doing
the
it.
400th time it's happened.
Also, you said it would be good for the plants on the farms. There's also pee in that, which would kill the plants.
I like how Ferg needed like facts to prove why this is a bad idea.
No,
Like
it
just like the
really
common
just
sense of
came
it
to
all.
me.
I'm like, this is turning into an actual town hall debate.
Yeah.
Pro or anti, whether
Yeah,
this would be
let's-
good for
let's-
Gordo,
cars.
is that why you thought you're not supposed to flush paper towels
What?
on a plane?
No,
What?
I mean, I don't flush paper towels. I just flush the toilet paper. It doesn't
I
matter.
got confused. I was like, are you not supposed to flush the toilet paper? What do you do with that? Like, bring it back to the seat and put it in the little trash
I
bag?
just push it up against the window. You don't
Ew.
stuff it in the trash. I mean,
Okay, we're gonna move on from this. Okay. All right. So, anyways, as they're going over ways that they can be innovative and think of cool things and features for the car, This is when Jack finally interrupts them and he's like, listen, guys, you guys are overthinking all of this. I drive cars because it's cool. Like, I'm just a regular dude. I like to drive. I don't understand why you guys want self-driving cars. I like to drive. That's the fun of having a car. And as he's saying all this, Sadie's like, ooh, sounds like someone's cuckoo for car nuts. And he's like, you like cars just as much as I do. It's like, what? No, what are you saying? And he's like, well, you have Ferrari bed sheets and your shower heads that's shaped like a fuel nozzle. And then everyone realizes Jack's been at Sadie's house. So you get a lot of the, ooh.
Whoa.
And
The
this
fuel nozzle shower head seems less efficient than like they make 10,000 kinds of shower heads now, and anytime you go anywhere where there's one newer than you have, you're like, oh my god, we have hit the pinnacle of science.
All I want,
awesome. It rains. It makes the rain one. It's huge.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like high water pressure. I want like my skin to be able to come off because the water is hitting me so hard.
Mine does both, but hers is shaped like a fuel nozzle. I mean, that's just going to be one very thick, very hard. It's like a hose. Shooting out at you.
But yeah, as this is happening, I'm thinking like, so this exposes the fact that the two of them have been together, right? So this is the big realization. This would have all been avoided if she didn't fire a shot at him for liking cars, because she was so worried. She's trying to be like on the good graces of Catherine. So now that someone's showing interest in cars, she's trying to counter and be like, ooh, look at the car geek, even though that's, who she is.
No, that's true. I mean, I would also think that maybe they missed a golden opportunity to have her sleep in a car bed.
Yes. Although we haven't.
Then we can play Can I Borrow a Feeling and have the greatest TV episode of all time.
Yeah, we haven't seen her apartment yet, so who knows? And
let Arby's worry about it.
And that's when Wesley's like, Sexy Sadie, new nickname, boom. I'm the best at nicknames.
I do love that they give him a little more to do in this. Like, his scenes coming up through the rest of the episode really cement his character.
Catherine's like, okay, listen, riles it all in. She's like, in pharma, she starts talking about, like, say the patent on your big pain pill is about to expire. Well, constipated people get pain too. So you mix a little poop meds with a little of your pain pill. Next thing you know, Rasputinol is making $1.6 billion.
The name Rasputinol.
To which he immediately says, I used to snort Rasputinol.
And she's like, everyone did. That's why it grossed $1.6 billion. And I actually really like that. I like that.
It's a great joke.
Yeah, like, these people in, this big corporate, even within a meeting, are just being very real in the situation. Like, listen, we know why this made this much money.
It's kind of crazy to think that those kind of people exist and they can compartmentalize that sort of stuff where it's like, oh, yeah, we understand we were making this terrible thing, but like, it was business. It's insane that people have that capability.
And basically, the moral of this whole story is essentially, let's just combine things that make something new. So let's just take all the best parts of all different cars. And like, oh yeah, like an all-star team. Like the Avengers. And she's like, yeah, I don't know why we need more than one metaphor here. And Elliot's like, oh, Frankenstein. Like,
it just keeps going. So this is good too. I was surprised by this, so I don't know if you guys have been following much of the music news in the past 6 to 8 months or whatever, but there's been like a huge rash of these like sort of legacy artists selling their entire catalogs for tons of money. Like Springsteen did it.
Yeah, we've discussed it.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
Did we talk about it? Yeah. But like they now cut to a Springsteen song here, like Dylan, all these people did it. They play Working on the Highway, which it's always kind of weird and jarring when they play a real song on a show, because they had to license it for a ton of money, and that always screws people over later on when they want to like re-release it or do reruns. But this is like a month before he sold his catalog, which would have made this way cheaper. I just found it kind of interesting that they believed in this show enough to pay Springsteen money for a song. And it works. I mean, it's a song about cars, and 80s Springsteen is, automotive industry worker guy.
Yeah, that actually, what you're talking about reminds me of like listening to the Office Ladies podcast that Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey do about The Office. They were talking about there was an episode where Michael talks about the tickets he bought for Sandals, I think, is the one where he sings 2 Tickets to Paradise.
Yeah.
And he just sings that one line, but they had to pay for the song for him to sing the one line. And it was like $15,000 just for him to sing one line of a song with no music attached.
Eddie Money makes $15,000 because he says, pack your bags, we're leaving day after tomorrow. Like, what a perfect world to be
R.I.P.
in.
I'm surprised that didn't even fall under like parody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think I know, look, we're not experts on this stuff, but like, I think you could, like, if we wanted to pick a regular person's song and play it on an episode, I think there's like an amount of time you can play it before it becomes an issue.
And then you have to pull it off. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Very, very short, though. It's like 10 seconds at most.
No, I think it would get copyright claimed, and if we were making money, we'd owe it to them.
But I think the copyright claim is only after a certain amount of time, though. I think you get like 5 to 10 seconds or something where they can't claim you. No, Gordo?
No, you don't get anything. It's publishing
somebody
rights.
else's property.
Yeah, you can't do anything on, you can get there. It's all, the thing about it is it's all individual. So if we went up to like an artist and I said, hey, can we play your music on our show? And they say yes, we can do it, but we can't just steal it and play it. Anytime it plays, this is considered a audience because other people are listening to us, whether or not they do or they know.
Which is why it's awful when you watch old wrestling and you just have to get the like weird like
The fake versions of songs.
fake versions of
generic
songs and
guitar.
stuff.
Yeah. So, but that's we wouldn't be able to do that.
But in any event, the next scene is when everyone goes down to the parking lot. And the idea now is we're going to just steal parts of cars off of all of the employees' cars and create this Franken car that's going to be the dream car. All the coolest parts of all the cars we see.
This is my favorite part of the episode.
Are we under the assumption that because they all work for Payne Motors that all of these cars are also Payne Motor cars?
No.
That was an issue I had with this.
Because that's another legality thing. Speaking of copyright claims.
You can't take, so not every person in that parking lot is going to be driving a Payne car. It's just not going to be the reality of the situation. Additionally, there's the factory downstairs. They should have the parts for all the different cars.
That's true. You shouldn't have to
this
take
whole
them off.
scene
Yeah, but
doesn't
that
need.
defeats the purpose. They're taking the best parts of every car.
Yeah, but you can't be like the new Payne Ponderosa featuring BMW tires. Like it doesn't. You can't do that.
Yeah, but it's just for the presentation. I'm sure, would manufacture their own cars once they put it into mass.
I don't know. I just felt like for this scene, like a lot of logic, you have to just ignore.
You gotta walk away from a bit of it. Yeah.
Because it could have easily been constructed, in the factory with all the various parts to every vehicle that they create.
I figured that they
were just destroying people's cars. I wasn't even focusing on that detail.
But
I figured that they would just go to like a storeroom and be like, here's this like 1930s like bumper. And here's like this, like one time we tried to make a muscle car. Like that's what I figured.
So we're seeing them like taking side view mirrors and spoilers and bumpers and all of that. But I think the very best part of this whole thing, the part that legitimately took me off guard and had me laughing, was Elliot breaks into the car and opens the door. And when he opens it, there's just a kid asleep in the back seat. And I just did not see that coming at all.
And they cut to him again a couple times, still being there. It has halted all of his progress because he keeps being like, anybody will help?
We have a child here.
Yeah, it was the first time that episode made me really laugh. Like that was killing me.
And there's also a part where Wesley finds this jacket in a car that he really likes, and Sadie's telling him you can't just steal it. But
you can't just steal someone you work with is dry cleaning.
Yeah, and she walks away, and he's like, makes it look like he's going to put it back in the car, but he's going to steal it. And as they're taking these parts, they're also going into like the factory and handing them to like Jack, and Jack's kind of getting the car ready. He's painting parts and welding things together. And so as they're taking parts off of all these cars, they're assembling it like in live time, just trying to get everything ready because they only have a few hours to spare. And I think like the end of that whole montage is when Catherine's like taking hubcaps from the car, but the guy who owns the car walks up and catches her. She's like, it's fine, I'm the new CEO. And
but she's also matter of fact about it because he's like, what are you doing? He doesn't like hide anything. She's like, I'm stealing your hubcaps. Like she just very upfront to him about it. She's like, I'm just stealing your hubcaps.
Here was the thing about this though, right? We're creating the cool car with like your favorite parts of every car.
Yeah, you ain't having hubcaps.
I'm not a big car guy, but my dream car does not have hubcaps.
No.
Some nice rims.
I think that just shows you how detached she is from
Right,
the
she doesn't
automotive
know.
industry.
Yeah. Like, oh, these are cool.
Do you know what kind of hubcaps I love, though? You know, in like every 80s cop movie or whatever, like the cop cars have hubcaps that are just one giant circle of steel, and they're way too big. I'm going to pull up a picture and you'll know exactly what I
very
mean.
plain.
Yeah, but they're like unnecessary because they're
I know
just
what you
a
mean.
circle of steel. Like I love them because they're they're like superfluous. Like why would you even do that?
They have to be strong enough in case they're hitting a perp's car to hit them off the road but not lose their car too.
Well, they have to make sure when they go over whatever hill in a chase and come down 20 feet that when they get shot off, it looks perfect on camera. So you see a good circle.
But so post montage, we cut to the scene of Jack working on the car with Sadie. Well, Sadie walks in while he's working on it, rather, and he asks her if, she can help him out with something. So she's just there's a lot of awkward tension there because the last time that they communicated was him telling everyone that they slept together inadvertently. But to get this project done, she's helping. So she's holding the bumper up for him, and as he's bolting it in, he takes a second to like apologize for everything. And it was a very honest apology, and she accepts, and they just kind of have this quick moment where they're looking at each other. And that's when Catherine walks in, and they separate like they just got caught, like, you know, making out or something. And Catherine's like, it should go without saying, but don't bang in here, okay? And they're like, wait, whoa, what? And she's like, no, you can bang in here later. It's not a problem for me. It's just, you know,
I'm not a prude.
The show's in an hour, so no banging right now. Yeah, I'm not a prude.
I just love that she's like, it's fine, I'm not a prude.
And like, doesn't this like say so much about who Catherine is and like how much Sadie's been so paranoid around her? And Catherine could give a fuck. She's just very like, I'm just trying to make money in this company. I don't care what you do, what you like, but like all this paranoia about presenting herself a certain way and hiding her love of cars, it's really all pointless. She doesn't care what you do. You can fuck this dude right in the garage. I don't care. I care about getting work done.
Yeah, after. Like, do this at 5 p.m. when we're done, yeah.
And after that is the big presentation. So it starts with Wesley addressing the crowd, and he's wearing the jacket that he stole.
I love that he's wearing the stolen jacket so much. What a great touch.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
This is the first scene that made me like, I lost it.
Well, he's talking. Well, so like first you see as he's talking, everyone's in the back together and they're talking about the car. But by the way everyone's talking about the car, it's very clear that it's an extremely ugly car. And Cyrus says it looks like something Bjork would drive into the Oscars, which I thought perfect, right? Just saying that like creates such a visual, but I think
you know exactly what that means.
But I think you have to be within a certain age time frame, right? Like I feel like people younger than us, like we're in our mid-30s. I feel like people like even 5 to 10 years younger than us have no idea what that means probably.
Yeah, I don't know if Bjork resonates with the younger audience at this point.
And then he goes, scratch that. It looks like if Bjork were to drive to the Oscars and got into a head-on collision with Blossom on the way to prom, and then the car was resembled by a blind villager from a tribe that has never seen technology and a spider on LSD who also had bad taste.
Who also had bad taste. Good
like,
writing.
Well, at least it's not racist. And
that is some very great descriptive writing, and I imagine that was like one of the funnest moments of writing.
Oh yeah, they were all
of them in a room trying to figure out this monologue.
And we're cutting back to Wesley, who's doing the presentation to the actual crowd while they're all talking, you know, behind the curtain. And he goes, a number of you might be wondering why the board put this woman in charge when Paynes have been running the Payne Motors successfully for over 100 years. Thank you.
Walks away.
Yeah.
It's a great little, like, he is still pissed off about this moment, because they don't touch on that for the last 10 minutes of the episode or whatever. Like, I'm glad they, like, throw it back at you.
I can't believe you guys don't see Andy.
No.
I don't. I really don't.
But you know what it is?
But I mean, maybe if I look at it again later.
Yeah. And to go back, when you first said Andy, like, in the beginning, I thought you meant Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec, and I'm like, not at all.
No.
But no, I think it's because you don't remember him from Superstore that well.
Maybe.
I think if you remembered his character clear, you would see how
I remember him now. He wasn't a main character. So
no, he was like
I was his supporting cast. He's on it for a long time.
As the seasons went through, he got more and more though. They definitely took a liking to him and started using him a little bit more. He never had any like major storylines other than like when Mateo was gone, like when Ice came and got him, like he was staying with Mateo's like aunt or whatever. But anyways, back to this show. Catherine gets up and presents the car, but not before making it known that it was developed before she actually started with the company.
They also play a techno version of Born to be Wild, and there were breakdancers. Like, nothing makes any sense at all.
I loved that. The people in, like, the motion capture suits.
They're doing breakdancing with b-boy moves.
Yeah, I don't like that there was no payoff to her not knowing electronics. It's just she guessed and it all worked.
Well, there's a lot of, with her, yeah. They kind of just shoved her off. They gave her that, like, take care of the lights, and then it never really got addressed again.
I would have liked if it worked at first, and when she was like, oh, good, thanks, Jesus, and like just like shocks or something, or anything, like.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably like a deleted scene that didn't make it in the episode because of time or something that they had more fun. Because they invested too much in having her in charge of it to not have it pay off.
Yeah. Like the scene in Forrest Gump where he's giving the speech about what Vietnam is like and the microphone's not working and it somehow just ends up working out. Like I can see them doing something like that here and it would have worked.
And then during this breakdance Steppenwolf big presentation, which is just building expectations, the curtain comes down and we see the car. And can you guys describe what we're looking at?
It is the Homer from The Simpsons.
They did a really good job of making this truly ugly.
I got a Magic School Bus vibe, but when it turns into a rocket ship.
Oh my god, that's perfect. Yeah, that's so weirdly right on.
Yeah, it was like kind of a wagon, And it was this like red, not quite van, not quite station wagon-y car. And obviously the
Conversion.
parts don't fit properly. Like it's not fluent. It's just a train wreck.
What do they call SUVs now? What's the proper term they use instead?
Oh, SUVs.
Yeah, SUV is still a thing.
No, but they use a different thing now where it's like a marketing term where it's like they don't want to call it an SUV because SUV makes you think of gas being expensive. They call them like not conversion, but something like that.
Sports utility vehicles?
No, Gordo, it's not that. It'll come to me. I hate you people so much.
Well, we can't think of it because it's not real. So
God
it's hard
damn
to-
it. I'm going to look this up.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it either. He is right. They call them like
Crossovers?
crossovers.
Crossover.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
Because they changed the name because, again, it was like a perfect thing to this show. They found that market research made people think that SUVs meant you're going to have a huge gas bill for the car.
I just filled
Which
up
is
my SUV
Little,
today.
little
I was going to say, which I filled up the car
everybody
yesterday and it
is
was
gonna-
not cheap. Yeah.
I don't see a correlation to SUV and gas. I mean, I know they do, but I don't know why the name would.
It's not
Because
like
SUVs
it's
are just bigger.
Yeah,
And
it's nothing
people know
bad
that,
about
yeah.
them, but they're just trying to give it a fresher new name because of connotation over the years. It's not like there's anything bad about SUVs.
So they're just rebranding.
Yes,
Basically,
exactly.
yeah. Because when you think of a Chevy Tahoe, you think of a $100 gas bill when gas is super
Gotcha.
expensive, you know?
I mean, like 3 of the 5 of us drive SUVs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in this area, it's very common.
Very necessary in New England.
And Joe lives in Canada now, so it's only a matter of time until they get an SUV.
Hey?
Yeah.
Fucking hosers.
Joe just riding around on his moose all day.
I wish I could be Dudley Do Right.
And
I'd be Dudley Pooh right.
All right, there it is. Okay.
anyways, yeah, so Catherine starts talking to the crowd and she's trying to make this presentation salvageable, but you know, she really has nothing. The card's just like a piece of crap. And she tells them like it was inspiring. No, she says that it was inspired by the platypus, and she just keeps talking about platypus for like a while. I'm sorry, I have to cut myself off. What's the plural for platypus?
I was just going to say, is it platypi?
I thought it might be, but I didn't want to just take a wild shot at that one.
I think it's platypi.
I
think
believe it's
platypussies.
platypussy. Gordo, at the same time we did, and I'm so glad. Gordo.
Okay.
It is platypuses.
It's platypuses?
Some English speakers use platypi as the plural for platypus, but that is far less common than platypuses.
Not this English speaker anymore. Platypussies all the way.
All right. So as she's talking, you cut to Jack and Sadie watching her from like the crowd. And Jack says, well, at least he got to design his own car. And Sadie's like, yeah, sure. Who would want to design their own car? And that's like when the light bulb turned on and she gets on the stage and Catherine goes to announce her. And I mentioned this way earlier, but she doesn't remember Catherine's job title or even her last name. She's like, it's Sadie, CEO.
Director of. I thought that was a really well delivered line too. It was
Yeah.
funny.
And
Especially dating back to us not knowing.
Yes. Well, that's why we don't know. It was never really clearly said. And this is when Sadie gets up and she basically just says, you know, just wanted to say we knew it would be challenging to create the world's first ever modular customizable vehicle where the buyer chooses the parts themselves, because when everyone gets to design their own car, sometimes it'll come out great and sometimes it'll come out like this. So it was a clever spin to make it like, look, we intentionally made it look bad to show you that, you know, when everyone gets their turn at things, it doesn't always turn out perfect.
Build your own car.
But yeah, essentially now they're going to be doing build your own cars, which I can only imagine is super, super expensive endeavor to do, but a good pivot compared to what they were about to display.
It's a good pivot, though. Yeah, I mean, that's some good thinking on your feet right there, because there's no other way to turn out of that without spinning out.
And then Catherine takes the microphone right back from her and tries spinning it and tries to like make it like about how like America is a melting pot.
But also internationally. She just can't not.
And Born to Be Wild starts playing again. We get like 3 people clapping, like, okay, I guess this is what we came here for.
And then the people start dancing, break dancing.
Yeah, we get the
again.
break dancers back again. And then after that, it's the next scene is everyone's like sitting in like kind of the lobby area after hours. Like, so everyone's gone, lights are out, and everyone's just sitting there drinking and talking about what happened. And Wesley's like, resign.
Still wearing the jacket.
Yeah, I guess he got a little liquid courage in him at that point. He's playful about it, but he's not hiding that he wants Catherine out. And then Catherine starts talking about how in Big Pharma, you don't start with boner pills, you start with hypertension, and then you move your way up to boners. So, this is only my first new project. We're not trying to start with our biggest hit. We're going to work our way up there.
She's also in no way to blame because that was a project from before she came on.
Yeah, it's legitimately not her problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everything rolls down to you, right? When you're the CEO,
You'll still take the fall. Yeah,
you're still taking the fall.
They'll say, "Why did you kill the project?" And as everyone's sitting there talking, Sadie spots Jack walking down the hall, and he's like holding a box of his things. So she kind of runs up to talk to him. And Sadie's like, you don't have to go if this is over the whole transfer thing from earlier. And he's like, why? Are you scared you're going to miss me? And she's like, no, there's 15,000 people here. What are the odds we'll even see each other in the halls? As she's saying this, Catherine walks up and tells Jack that, he can take any open desk that he wants. And that's when Sadie finds out he got bumped upstairs and she offered him a job because she wants some blue collar perspective.
A lot like Daryl.
Yes,
that's
actually,
exactly what I thought.
Exactly like
too.
Daryl. Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Wow, good call. Yeah, that's exactly like Daryl's promotion.
That's when she's like, oh, that's my Uber. I don't know how to drive. So the CEO of Payne Motors, not only is she not interested in cars, she doesn't even know how to drive. And
Respect.
Yeah, and then it just kind of ends with the two of them sitting there, Jack and Sadie. It's like, well, I guess I'll be seeing you a lot more. And they're like, yep, it's going to be fun. And that's it. And that was the close of the episode. So they leave you on this cliffhanger. Obviously, this show is going to be built around when these two get together officially, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be, this is the through line of the whole show is, will they, won't they?
Yes.
Won't they? Because Jack deserves better. All right? This bitch does nothing but lie. She denies having sex with him. Screw her. All right?
She has a very uncomfortable shower faucet that definitely hurts.
He's a great guy. He could have anyone in that company. Screw Sadie.
So what's interesting about this is, or for me anyways, number one, I don't always agree with the fact that there needs to be some sort of love storyline. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why it always has to be shoehorned in. I get that there is some sort of formula that these shows have to follow, and that it typically ends up working out, but it's interesting that with this and Superstore, I have never cared less about couples actually getting together than these two shows. I don't care if these two people get together. And with Superstore, Amy and Jonah, I just don't care. Like, I don't want them to. I don't understand if it's the characters or the way that they played the story, but I don't care about that storyline at all.
Oh, see, it's funny because I thought they played that perfect in Superstore. I was like invested in the two of them right away.
I wasn't right away. It grew on me throughout the series, and then I was dying for them to get together. So
what I find interesting
that works
in this situation, what I think is very unique and interesting is it's always like the will they, won't they, and then it's always like that build up to the first kiss scene. Like it's such a big deal.
And then they always
time.
get together anyways.
But in this case, the two love interests have already had sex. It's not it's like a very different perspective. Yeah, because it's like, will they officially become together? Sure, but they already have. They've already fornicated. Like, this isn't like...
Yeah, it's a huge deal in The Office in season 2 when Jim finally kisses Pam. In this one, in episode 1, they are already in a we've had sex scenario. So it is very different.
It's unique to what you normally see in these situations.
Oh, and Tony saw Angela naked.
Yes.
It was a big deal when Tony finally saw Angela naked coming out of the shower.
Hey, hey.
I can't wait till we do Who's the Boss someday.
Then he just tap danced his way out of there.
Right onto the set of the Tony Danza show.
Yeah. But so I mean, listen, so that's the conclusion of the episode. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys wanted to get out before we went forward about the show in general.
No, I think we did a pretty thorough one on this one.
Yeah, so all right, so let's just move forward and we'll do the green light or cancel. I'm going to go in the order I see you guys in. Nick, starting with you.
I never go first. This show definitely has potential. It's not without faults. Like I had just mentioned, I'm not really into the love interest at all. Having said that, I do like most of the characters. I think they're funny. I think they're interesting. I think the point of the show is interesting. I like the car manufacturer that's a little bit outside of the box. I'm gonna greenlight it. I think I would definitely want to see more of this show, and I hope it pays off.
Ferg.
For me, it's a cancel. I didn't like the show very much. I thought the dialogue was very unnatural. The way they spoke all the time, a little too silly for me. There was a lot I did like about the episode, but there was just a little more that I didn't. I don't think we got enough from the ensemble cast learning everybody. And like I said earlier, the big problem of the thing was just fixing it with a break or the car would see clothes. It wouldn't just focus on skin. There was just too many little problems, so it's a cancel for me.
Gordo.
See, I disagree about the dialogue. I think that the dialogue was perfect for like a corporate level show. I think that that speaks to exactly how people would talk. With that being said, I am greenlighting it. I agree that it wasn't without its faults, but the build up to the big payoff really worked for me. You know, some of the other little lines kind of went over my head throughout the show, but the big payoff really got me. And there was enough there for me to want to see if that's a trend that continues. So green light from me.
Joe.
Yeah, I'm pretty in line with Nick and Gordo on this one. I think that I really like the premise of it being a car company because it's a little different than everything else when we're watching all these workplace comedies, and it makes it feel fresh compared to some other ones. I like the dialogue. I like a lot of the jokes. I do like the characters. I do think that, again, in the streaming world, like, I think they were smart when they premiered this show. They premiered episodes 1 and 2 together, almost like a 1-hour episode, and we talk about that a lot, where I think people's opinions would change on a show if you could also see season 2, or episode 2 rather, right away. But even with that not in mind, just going on this one episode, it's a green light for me. I love Superstore. This feels very much like it. I like all the characters, and it does give you that sort of warm and fuzzy NBC Thursday night feeling.
Yeah, so for me, it's also going to be a green light. And yeah, I don't think it's a perfect show. I liked it a lot, though. I would say these shows, these workplace comedies, the Justin Spitzer, Office, this whole tree, you know, The Office, Parks and Rec, all these shows, they heavily rely on like this ensemble cast. I think they need to do a better job of incorporating who some of these people are. A couple of them I don't see myself falling in love with unless I find out more about them because my initial impressions rather are just not strong. So like Elliot and Dory, I could do without those characters, but again, it's only episode 1 and they didn't focus on them to try to establish the main pieces a little bit more. So we'll see where those go. I do feel like this is a show that will inevitably add a couple more pieces to the pie to kind of round out that cast. So I would be surprised if by season 2, you don't see a couple more people introduced to fill that up. But ultimately, yeah, I thought it was like an easy to watch show. It was fun. Went by quick, shot well. I like the main characters. I like Sadie. I like Catherine. I like Jack. So I think like the foundation is proper. I just think the supporting cast needs a little bit of tweaking. But yeah, overall, it's a green light for me. So that's 4 out of 5, which means Fur can eat a gigantic bag of dicks. American Auto, you do live on to see episode 2, so congratulations on that. Another reminder, I just want to remind you guys one more time, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to our social media and other places where you can listen to us, all platforms. Everything's linked through our .com, S1E1pod.com. Again, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, interact with us on our socials, tweet at us, comment on our Instagram post, talk to us, let us know what you like about the show, what you don't like. We're here to evolve ourselves, so keep us in the loop, and you know, we like interacting with you guys. It does mean a lot to us. So that's it. That's all the time we have for this week. Stick around for next week. We'll be back every Thursday with a new episode. But that's it. That's all we have. Thank you. Goodbye.
I don't think we got the best Gerald Ford.